Hello, welcome to Miniature Realms. My name's Stuart. Warlord Games very kindly sent me a frame of the new Soviet plastic troops for bolt action, so I thought, better paint one.
Miniature Realms is proudly sponsored by Counter-Attack Bases. They stock a wide range of counters, gaming aids and movement trays for multiple game systems, and offer custom items to suit your club, your event, or even your podcast or YouTube channel. Check out the link in the video description. The new Soviet infantry platoon and army starter set are already out now for bolt action version 3. I remember when they were initially announced, there was a little bit of skepticism by some corners of the internet around the quality of the sculpts and things, so I didn't really know what to think. I thought they looked fine. I quite like the cartoonesque style of bolt action miniatures, and I'm sure many people have gone over the frames already. I will show you them briefly here. I'm super impressed with the faces, as I have been with all of the newer quality sculpts, but you know, these are aesthetics. We all have our own things we like and things we don't like. What I am going to do with this video is something a little bit different to the usual painting videos, and you'll know that already from the thumbnail. Is I want to speed paint this miniature and see if I can paint the miniature doing no highlights at all, just using speed paint type paints from different brands, and see if I can do the miniature in about 15 minutes. These are the paints I used, and the whole plan is really to make a miniature that looks really cool by making the basing look nice and making use of underpainting before I apply the quick paints here that we've got. Now I'm starting off with the airbrush, and that's going to upset a few of you, I know, especially when it's a speed painting type of video. So you can get around this. You can prime in black with a rattle can, just like I've done, and you can slap chop, do a nice dry brush all over the top of your miniature with white, slowly building it up by layers until you've got lots of nice dark layers in the undercuts, and you'll get a very, very similar finish. This is slightly better in my opinion, and it gives you a slightly smoother finish. So if you've got an airbrush, I'd advise you to do it with the airbrush first as a zenithal, and then do a little bit of dry brushing like this, which I always add to the top. But you don't need an airbrush. I've just done it because it was a little bit more optimal for me, and I'm not including this in the 15 minutes. I figured this is part of the preparation for the miniatures, like the priming stage. So you maybe do this in bulk, and then could you then do your whole army around 15 minutes per miniature. That's the goal for this paint job. And there's your grayscale miniature with all the details picked out with the dry brush. And I really think that helps boost. Don't just spray white if you've got the option for doing grey or black and then dry brushing. But I'm going to start with Russian uniform and British uniform 50-50 mix here. And these are the AK quick gen paints. I found that the Russian uniform on its own was a little bit too dark a green for the colour I was going for. And the British uniform was a little bit too British uniform. And if you've got the studio paint scheme, it's definitely got that sort of warmer ochre tone compared to the British uniform, at least as far as this AK speed paint goes. And I wanted to get a mix, so the 50-50 mix is somewhere there. If you want to lean one way or the other, you might be better off just with the British uniform on its own. And this is the largest area of the miniature, so giving it a nice even coat. There's enough paint on my brush so it goes into all those recesses and really boosts the shading, but not so much that your dry brushing and your underpainting doesn't show through and give you a little bit of a shadow. The pre-painting, the underpainting is key here to giving it a more of a cool shadow look. You can just do this straight over a white prime, but I don't think it looks quite as good. So I definitely encourage you to try it with the underpainting if you're able to. For the next stage, I'm using dark leather, and there's very little at all to apply here. It is very much just the belt. There's not much else. I nearly put it on the wrong strap there for a minute. You can see me check myself and stop after just checking the reference picture. A nice thin coat over there. You've got a little bit of dry brushing, which is picked out the edges, and away you go. And that was it. That was all the brown you needed, all tucked away, mostly hidden on the miniature. Then we have black, and I'm using this primarily on the boots, but also on the blued metal on the gun as well. I'm not using any metallic paints here. They can look a little bit too shiny. This, in my opinion, isn't the best black paint for this sort of quick style paints. I think Black Legion for Games Workshop's probably a little bit better. I haven't tried the Army Painter Speed Paint one. I am using some Army Painter Speed Paints later on this video, so I'm trying to use a real mix of different ranges here. And thank you to AK who have sent these paints, and I've already reviewed in a previous video, and also to Army Painter who have recently sent me the paints that you also see in this video. There are some Citadel ones as well. I bought those myself. Now we're on to Ruddy Fur, which is a sort of orangey red colour, and I'm using that on the rifle stock and any small amount of wood that's showing on the rifle itself. Before moving on to Skeleton Horde, this is the best thing I could find out of all of the quick style paints I had for this. I'm just using it on the strap for the rifle and the pack and the little strap that's going over the body here. It's really, really light in pigment, and I didn't want to make it too dark. I wanted to just stand out from the other uniform areas while still giving it a semi-realistic colour tone there. So you can see there on the sort of bread bag, maybe, a little satchel at the side. It does just about the job we need. So this is Army Painter Speed Paint and Peachy Flesh, and we got quite a lot of shadow on the skin already from that direction with the airbrush. You may not get that if you do the dry brushing, but you'll still get a decent enough effect. I found I did 2 coats of this, let it dry a little bit, and just went back and reinforced in some of the areas where it was very, very black, so you get a bit of a smoother transition. But again, I want it to look sort of grim and moody. And then Maize Yellow, also from Army Painter Speed Paint. Nice, bright, vibrant yellow for her hair, and I think that just stands out really nicely with all of the other slightly duller, darker, grim looking stuff. I'm using a 2B pencil here, a soft artist pencil. I did have a softer one, it would have been better, but I can't find it. And I'm just using it to run over the barrel and the chamber on the rifle as well. So just to give it that slightly metallic look without it looking too shiny. Now, making the basing look good here is key. So it's muddy ground I've used as the base layer, and while that's drying, I'm adding a little bit of Vulpus Pink just to the bottom sort of third of her face, around her lips, her nose and her cheeks. I thin this ever so slightly with water, and it just gives a little bit more vibrance with colour. Now this is an oil wash. This is called Mud. You could just use an Agrax shade or something like that, any standard brown wash. I prefer to use oils, it dries a little bit quicker. I have been drying the miniature and the basing texture with my hairdryer in between stages at this point. A little bit of dry pigment from AK as well. This is darker. Just put it in patches and a little bit onto the boots as well, and then blowing away the excess, and that's absolutely fine. You don't need to seal it when it's on bases like this. It just sticks into the detail fine. These are winter tufts from War Painter Figures in the UK. I love these. I use them pretty much on all of my armies. His 2mm tufts. I started using 2mm with epic scale stuff, and I'm just stuck with it. It seems to be the perfect length for most all-round miniatures bases. And then after that, I'm using some Vallejo Deer Armour FX, thick mud, European mud, and this is a little bit more fibrous, and when you apply it quite thick it looks quite wet, so I'm putting this in patches as well, allowing it to go onto the boots. Remember, this is a really quick paint job, so the effects you can do, all this easy stuff, can make the miniature look so much better. That's why I'm putting a lot of effort into the base here. And with that we continue. This is AK Snow, their standard snow, just putting patches of it in and amongst the grass tufts as if it's sort of melting and seeping through, and then a number of other patches all over the base. But I don't want to cover all of the brown either. I want it to look like it's sort of slightly muddy ground, slightly melting snow, and this does quite a good job if you sort of stipple it around a little bit. And then very much an optional extra, but this is snow sprinkles. This is slightly shiny stuff, and it just gives you that glistening effect that you get on the top of melting snow. So I'm focusing this mostly on those grass patches where it's melting most, or where you've got that thicker amount of the base layer snow. Finish off the base rim with a little bit of black just to tidy it all up now, and I'm just hoping that making the base quite nice and busy, even though it's all simple stuff, and using that underpainting method has really made quite a cool looking miniature, but just for the tabletop. You don't want to look too close at this, and I really had to stop myself from going back and doing further highlights, because this is not the way I normally paint. I normally base coat like this, and then I like to go back and highlight. So I really had to stop myself, but I wanted to try and stick to the brief and work out whether it was possible to paint a bolt action army really quickly using some of these new speed paints, especially now AK have brought out their military ranges. You know what I think it is? And I think with a good bit of underpainting rather than just priming white, you can really kind of boost the effect and have something that looks pretty cool. Obviously you don't want to look at her too close, or even her eyes a little bit wonky, but overall, as a speed paint goes, I think it's pretty successful.
Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Just a quick paint job, but it's always fun to have a look at the new frames as and when they come out from Warlord Games, and it's always fun to keep that series going on the channel as well. I think I've done a video for each new book and at least one of the new plastics for every new army as they've come out for version 3. So hopefully I can keep doing those for you. If you have enjoyed that video, please do give it a like, drop a comment below. It really helps the channel out. And if you'd like to support me even further, please do check out the channel's Patreon. It's the very best way of supporting me to keep making videos like this. And thank you to all my existing patrons. I really do appreciate all the support you give. Lots of other affiliate links there in the video description as well, including one for Warlord Games. Not one I get any money from, but at least it shows them that you've come via this video. Also check out the channel sponsor Counter Attack Bases. But thank you very much for watching. Take care, and I'll catch you soon.